With so many more realistic horror games already on PlayStation VR, it would be such a shame if anyone passed on Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion based on its cartoony characters and retro, somewhat Wolfenstein 3D inspired facade. Because what's hiding underneath is indie game design at its finest, offering up a simplicity that AAA developers would never even bother attempting. Meaning, Spooky's isn't about deep gameplay, combat, or upgrades. Instead, it focuses on primarily one thing: trapping you, the player, inside a haunted mansion, and in order to get out, you'll need to traverse all 1,000 of its rooms as quickly as possible. Moving from room to room in Spooky's mansion often only takes seconds, which is fortunate considering the sheer number of them between you and the exit. At first it's all deceptively simple and a little silly. It's just room after room with some low-budget cardboard cutouts of ghosts and monsters that pop out at you from walls as you're running by. They're not scary in the slightest, in fact most of them are downright adorable. But soon the mansion starts throwing serious threats at you, from rooms that resemble the less desirable back alleys of Silent Hill, to a variety of monsters that stalk you relentlessly from room to room. And when you're practically defenseless and your only option is to run like hell, managing an ever-depleting stamina meter, suddenly those cardboard cutouts become a bit more impactful, especially in VR. And if that wasn't enough, eventually the mansion begins to show a fair amount of depth, introducing entirely separate areas that feel like a game within a game, that'll take upwards of 20 minutes or so to complete, but only count as one of the 1,000 rooms. And these are the areas, with their individual puzzles and oddball stories, that make Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion so memorable. The core game of the mansion only takes about 2.5 hours to beat, and it's something you'll want to do in one sitting if possible. Knowing how many more rooms you have to face and counting them down one by one makes the game feel like an endurance marathon, and tough to quit until you've seen the end. But once you're done, there are still 2 more challenges that await: an endless mode featuring a brand new mansion and global leaderboards, but also Karamari Hospital, which nixes the endurance run completely in favor of exploration, finding keys, and slowly unlocking new rooms. Clocking in at around an hour, it still manages to tell an intriguing, disturbing story, but just like the rest of the game, I was shocked by how these simple, kind of primitive graphics managed to be so effective. If I have any complaints, it's that the health meter jumps around the screen and tries to align itself with nearby walls or objects. It's not nearly as distracting as you'd think, but I do wish there was an option to use the health bars from the non-VR version, as a stationary HUD like in the Persistence. And being the huge Spelunky fan that I am, I somewhat selfishly wish Spooky's had taken the roguelite formula that it flirts with a bit further. For a relatively easy game, save points are a little too frequent, and if the developers had included some random power-ups or abilities, each playthrough would have had its own share of surprises, and made each run feel far more unique. Even when it was just a flat-screen game, I was hoping that Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion would come to PS4. So now that it's finally here with the HD renovation and the addition of PlayStation VR support, it's basically a dream come true. For horror fans, it's a fairly new take on the genre, featuring charming graphics and music, a platinum trophy that I'm just addicted enough to go for, and does so many things right that it had me hooked from beginning to end. Plus at $10, it's the perfect budget title, meaning if you're even remotely interested in this one, you should give it a go.